Welcome to the Village of Buchanan, January 2021, believe it or not, 2021, here we are, workshop meeting. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with Executive Order 2202.1. You may hear the meeting live by going to the Village of Buchanan Facebook page. And please, everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we have a lot to discuss tonight. We are busy. We're continuously busy. And the first discussion we're going to have is the Summer Camp 2021. If we are... I don't know, Nancy, my question to you is, when is like the latest date that we can give you an answer? Because, you know, I know you have to plan, but we're in January. The virus is still active. I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me read what I have first. Obviously, the sooner the better.
Okay.
But let me just go through everything, and then we can talk about that, okay? That way you guys hear what I have down so far. All right, so there was a RAPS and Department of Health Zoom meeting last week. I was on it. I missed the first 10 minutes, but that's okay. I pretty much got the gist of the first 10 minutes. So far, all the recreation camps in the area are planning on opening, okay? I'll just read this down. Let's see. Any camp that ran last year, there were no reported cases of COVID. I want to point that out. Okay. Hold on. I'm just trying to figure out my son's. Oh, because I got to do that. Last year, by the time we stopped taking registration, I think that was very early April, we had 49 residents registered. We had 54 residents not yet registered from the previous year. Okay, because I keep the 2 years together and just color code them and move them up. We had at that time 87 non-residents registered and 134 non-residents not yet registered. Not all of the people that were registered were paid at that time, just that you're aware. I stopped taking payment. I may have written their names down, but I stopped taking registrations at that point. So that was the first week of April. To run camp, I need a director, I need my nurse, I need my core staff of one senior and one or two counselors, depending upon the age group of the kids in the class, okay, or in the group. The groups are pods, all right. The Department of Health did say, since we are an outdoor camp in a very large pavilion, that we can have our pods. And I figured under the pavilion, looking at it, we could do 8 to 10 pods, probably 8. And I can use the tennis court to do 2 more pods. And the pods consist of each individual age group, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, etc. We have an option to stop at 5th grade and not do the middle school. Or we can do what we've always done and go kindergarten through 8th grade. Let's see. Counselors are not allowed to switch groups. Okay, they are set to a group and they have to stick to that group. Children are not required to wear masks while within their own group space. Everybody will have their own group space. The counselors do have to wear them. For this year, I would like to switch back to our 2 3-week sessions. That will allow and help with less people going in and out of the groups, out of their pods. Following all CDC regulations, including but not limited to, no parents or guardians leave the cars during arrival or dismissal. Arrival and dismissal will be staggered times, okay? Temps will be taken upon arrival before they even leave the car. All campers must fill out and staff a daily COVID screening like they do in schools now. All campers must bring their own water for the entire day. Lines of direction are printed on the grounds of the pavilion, meaning it's a flow of one direction from wherever they are. There's an in and there's an out. Okay. And nobody will cross each other. Let's see. No intermingling of groups at any time. All groups will be responsible for their own garbage and cleaning the bathroom after every use, which actually isn't that difficult. When the child goes in, the counselor goes in, wipes down the toilet, the handle. We'll have the wipes there. We'll have Lysol sprays or some disinfectant sprays, things like that. So after every single child, it will get wiped down. Let's see. The laborer will do a final sweep at the end of the day and do a thorough cleaning of the bathrooms, nurse's office, and the what I call cool area, which is the meeting room inside the highway garage, which is not going to be used unless there's an emergency. Okay. Campers will have their lunches in their backpacks. Counselors will have their lunches in their backpacks. All right. There's absolutely no intermingling. The nurse will be outside. I would like to get a small no-sided tent. They're not that expensive, so that she at least has an individual space. Hold on one second. After camp is still up in the air. I have to get more clarification on after camp. So may or may not run an after camp. Having the outdoor camp is a huge advantage. We don't have to worry about a lot of numbers per se, but how I worked it out is each group will have their own space underneath the pavilion. Then there will be a 10-foot space before the next pod has their space. Anytime they're within their own space, like I said, the children don't have to wear a mask, but when you come out of the space, everyone has to put the mask on, and everyone does at that point have to be 6 feet apart. But once they're in their own space, they do not. Okay, that's was all on that Zoom meeting, which I could forward you because the Department of Health sent it out to everybody. Let's see.
The Department of Health is saying it's as long as all those requirements are met, they're comfortable with the camps opening this year. Okay.
They were comfortable with them opening last year. Last year, they started off with the pods and there could only be 10, but then they changed that to 15 per pod. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's a very strong possibility. Kathy and I have been talking back and forth all winter long on this. She's very much involved in this. Okay. I think this year we're going to skip an assistant director because the assistant director that I had last year doesn't know what she's going to do with her kids yet. So she declined this coming year. I think we can do it. I believe we can do it. Even with the swimming, we go up and each group goes individually. And once again, even up at the pool, there's an in and an out and not going through the locker rooms. Okay. We've got gates that we can open up. Mm-hmm. So it's in one direction and out the other direction.
I'm sorry, Nancy, regarding the pool, like you were mentioning, there was discussion of if we do open the pool for camp, would it be open just for the camp, or we're going to open it to the general public as well? So that's another item you want to bring up.
Guys, yeah, that's up to you guys. But, I thought, if we open it to the general public, then we have to limit how many people come in. And I know Cook Pool's opening. I know all the other camps in the area are wanting to open. So I that's up to you guys. But, it's not like we get a lot of people after camp anyway.
Right. Yeah.
If we had it open for a couple of hours and everything is obviously spaced out, we have the space to put the lines in, to put ropes in, and to make sure everybody stays separate.
But that's another, besides the day camp and running the day camp, which includes the pool, is the board has to make a decision. We're going to open it to the general public. So that way Nancy and Bob can work together and say how we're going to keep everybody safe as well for the general population as well. So that's another decision that you guys have to make in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Hey, Nancy?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many people in the pod?
Between 8 and 10 children. No, excuse me. Between 10 and 15 children in a pod, plus the counselor and assistant counselor. And they're, depending upon the age group, I may have 2 assistants or junior counselors as we call them.
Okay, and when you talk about the nurses station, even though it's outside, would she have some sort of petition? Because the distance of 6 foot between her and who's ever coming to her.
Absolutely.
And then again, I guess the other thing is that now, correct me if I'm wrong, so the nurse is there for possible injuries, slight cuts, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, okay. And
can I ask you one question? Between when the pods are outside in the pavilion, do you have any physical separation between them, or is it just a line around?
It's just the line. We
Okay.
could do ropes. We absolutely could do ropes, but we could draw either like I always do with the tape on the ground, and they have their
Okay.
pods, and then there's the space between with the arrows so they know which way to walk. They'll each have a bin of which, especially for the younger kids, I'll have either rope or something that goes in their own bin, and it's only for that pod to use. That has 6 foot markers, so the children, when they do go out, and they will go out because they're not going to stay under the pavilion all day. They're going to be out. They're going to be doing different things. But it has 6 foot markers, little knots in them, so they all follow and hold on to a knot. Senior counselor at the front, junior counselors at the back. And no
I think the
pod.
tape would be better than than rope. Because
Yeah,
rope,
okay.
they might trip over rope or things like that.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Nancy, just one other question.
Mhm.
What about cleaning? Cleaning after the camp and that kind
Well,
of stuff?
Okay, I did say that.
Well, I
During
think you just
camp,
mentioned the bathroom, how you were going to clean the bathroom. What about like the tape?
if the child has to use the bathroom, which they will,
Yeah.
they always have to go up with a counselor. First of all, we never let them go by themselves. We never have.
Okay.
So the child will go in, use the bathroom. The child will come out. The counselor will go in. They will have in their own bin wipes, gloves, and a disinfectant spray. Okay. They'll wipe down the handle of the toilet, the seat of the toilet. They'll wipe down the handles of the faucets that the children use to wash their hands. Okay. And then the next person can go in. Every camp has to do that.
All right. I know you said that, Nancy, but I think Dwayne made a good point. For the tables, because the kids will be using the picnic tables and everything. Like at the end of the day, will somebody wipe those tables down? Is what the plan is?
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
My thought is 2 things. A, I can buy the very inexpensive plastic throwaway table liners, and we can use those.
Okay.
And the spray that the village has. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the backpack that Timmy has, would be great to go around and spray the bathroom, spray the pool area.
Yeah.
That would be phenomenal to use that.
How effective are those things outside?
Well, I don't have an answer to that, but I would.
Well, you're spraying right on the material. The idea is you got to spray you don't spray in the air. You get closer to the bathrooms are great.
Yeah.
I think Nancy's great for the bathroom. You just spray everything in the bathroom. You can still wipe things down. But if you're next to a table and you spray the table, and that'll work just fine. You got to be at a certain distance away from it. That's all.
Well, you need 5 minutes, is my understanding. So
Yeah.
I would obviously during the camp hour, I would do it at the very end of the camp hour, maybe up at the pool area a little bit more, depending upon. I'm going to really discourage the changing of swimsuits like we usually do. Most of the campers stay in their swimsuits all day anyway because we have sprinklers. I'm not going to do the water slides this year.
Okay.
I'm not going to hire anybody in this year. We will come up with many more other wonderful activities to do. And that number 1 will save us money there. Okay. Let's get through this.
All right. I think we all want our worlds to get back to normal. I mean, it was a tough year for everyone, and especially for the kids last year over the summer. That, it hasn't been an easy time. We all felt bad for the kids, but we wanted to do the right thing. But it sounds like there's many more precautions this year. So that's our concern. We just want
I think we know more about it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we know more about it.
now. Yeah.
Department of Health is more like, okay, I know we can do this, we can't do that.
Right.
So we know more about it.
Mhm.
And I was scared last year about it. I'm not as
Yeah, we all
afraid.
were. We all were.
I know that my director and myself, we will have shots in our arms already done. Some of the senior counselors may, especially if they start coming out, the counselors that are older, we can encourage them to get them. So, the more people who have them, the better I feel personally that it would be. So,
We all
and
go
not run at full capacity. Okay. Even 50% capacity is 110 kids. And that will be gone in a second because, like I said, even with those numbers I gave you earlier, if that were the case last year, I would have been filled April 1st.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Hey, Nance, you did say though that arrivals and dismissals, it's not going to be anybody getting out of the car. No, other than the
No
kids
adults.
going, temperature checks.
Yep.
Now, and also, we're not going to allow parents to just kind of park their car during the day and walk into there. There's going to be
No.
somebody there to turn them away.
Absolutely. But we're also,
Perfect.
Kathy and I were literally talking about that about an hour ago. She suggested that we come in at the light on Westchester, rope it up all the way down to the ball field so that they have one line to make coming down. Okay. So they go up and come down. They don't even use the half circle. They go all the way down to the ball field, turn
Nice.
around, down, drop their child off, and they go from there. Same with the pickup. And we'll do staggered according to groups. Kindergarten at one time, first grade at another. And I really think it'll work very, very well.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So when is the cutoff for you to make a decision? When do you need the decision?
I would love to know by March 1st. That way,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think-
Earlier
I
if
think that's
possible.
doable. I think that's,
okay.
I think we're all leaning towards the camp. I think we're all leaning towards getting our lives back to normal. But, we want to be cautious too, but it sounds like you have safeguards in place.
Right. I've been getting emails from people who want it, can I send my kid yet? Can I sign up yet? But I also got an email from Lisa Anderson with the town saying, I'm starting to advertise for lifeguards and counselors. I know some other camps are already hiring. Do you want your information out? I said, I have to wait and see. And as soon as I can get that out, because I'm hoping it's not too hard to hire counselors, especially since college students have been home for a year now. And a lot of them aren't at school. They may want a job.
I don't think you're going to have a problem with that one.
I'm hoping because
I don't think you will.
you never.
All right. Does the board have any other questions for Nancy?
Just one last question, Nancy. From the state point of view, because again, 30, 40 days or how many, month,
9
6
days.
weeks we have before that date you have in mind. I'm just kind of wondering that with the state mandates, do they have a time limit of sorts where to give the all clear, or because one day you can dine outside, the next day you can't, but just the idea that if you're speculating here on when the quote unquote all clear might be. So I think to defer to the
Well, what I'd like to do, Dwayne, is if you guys give me the go ahead, get the information out there. It will be limited. We'll decide on the numbers. I will call my health inspector, who I spoke with last week, actually, and take registration, but not take payment until a certain date, like maybe May 1st. But then it all has to be paid in full by the end of May. May 31st is what we usually do, so that we can take the registrations. I don't know how you feel about that, or take the registration with payment and pray to God nobody closes down again. So
again, it's all subject to the state law staying consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the best I have to offer from now. I'm sure I can give you some other information if you need it. I can forward to you the Zoom that the Department of Health and RAPS had, because they put that out. And if you guys want to take a look at it, you're more than welcome to. It'll give you a little bit more information, I think, on your end, if you have different questions.
And then Nancy, while you're still here, there's a question in the chat box from Harmon Bacher. There was a discussion on the pool. Will it be open? I know repairs need to be done. That could affect the parents' decision also. So,
Absolutely.
yes.
Camp really runs because of the pool and what we offer with the pool. The swim lessons in the morning and the what I call free swim in the afternoon. The parents love that. And we get a lot of non-residents for that reason as well. Pool is huge with the camp.
All right.
Teresa, maybe I can just give you an update on that. The consultant said that it takes about a year for the Department of Health to make any approval of any major repairs. So, so the idea is to keep the main pool open this year. The kiddie pool will be closed.
Yeah.
And then we'll get a report from the consultants with a timeline in the next month or so, and then we can determine how we're going to handle next year's pool programs. So just to give you an update on that.
All right.
Great.
Okay. That's good to know, because it's just the kiddie pool this year that we're not going to be able to use,
That's correct.
Which is fine.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Nancy. It's
Thanks, Nancy.
very informative and comprehensive, and hopefully be able to pull through with everything without any hitches from the state.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it'll be good because, like I said, they're encouraging the camps and they let them run last year. It's just that everybody was so afraid and didn't really know that pretty much everybody closed down.
We just wanted to make sure that everybody was safe, so it was
Yeah.
it was a difficult decision to make.
And I think we know more this year. And I think we know better how to handle things.
Happy.
And I definitely have better ideas by talking to other recreation supervisors and, discussing things with them.
Sure. All right, great. Thank you, Nancy. Thanks for the presentation.
Good job, Nancy. Thank you.
Yep. Good job.
And now, next we have up our building inspectors, Peter and Brian Cook. The floor is yours, or the Zoom is yours, shall I say?
So let me just start off with, so Brian and Peter, they've been here for a couple months now, and they've been looking at the fee schedules and what's been going on in the village besides the violations, which some of the board members know. We have a number of them going through. They've been very, very busy. So I provided you a list of what they propose as fee changes based on their experience and based on what the cost of it is to do those projects. Hopefully you have those in front of you. And Brian and Peter, you have a copy of that in front of you, do you? Yeah. So I'll let them go through it and explain each one and then answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Item 1 on the list, building permit fees. We're asking $150 up to $10,000.
First 10.
Yeah, for the first $10,000. And then it had been $12 per thousand beyond that. City of Rye, other places,
Irvington.
and Irvington,
But
they're
we're not doing that.
17 per thousand.
Okay.
So that's what we're recommending. We're not doing something that's not done elsewhere.
Okay. Have you checked the local municipalities too, like the town of Cortland, Ossining, Croton, Peekskill? Just curious.
I haven't checked those.
Yes, yeah, we haven't checked them because we've asked for schedules, but we have not received the fee schedule.
Yeah, it's hard to get information from Peekskill, I know.
Yeah.
The town should be pretty easy to get that information.
The second item was fire inspection fees. We were, right now, we're not charging anything, and we're asking $25 per dwelling unit. And that would also be for the commercial rental spaces and the lease spaces. Most of the fire inspections are 3-family or better. So it would be per dwelling unit. You're looking at about $75 after we go through a 3-family unit, or an apartment building could be even more because of the number of dwelling units. You do have one very large commercial rental place, the Wick building. That's got something like 90 spaces in it, and that would take several days to go through.
Wow. And that would be a yearly inspection on the fire when you go in? Okay.
Yes, it would be a yearly inspection on 3-family or more, and all commercial, and all places of public assembly.
Okay.
Right. Fire sprinkler testing. if there is a fire sprinkler in a building, it's supposed to be tested once a year. The backflow or the regulated pressure zone, RPZ, are supposed to be tested every year. I do get some certificates sent to me or for some of the buildings, but not all of the buildings have complied. So we have to make a list, and we have to get some people to participate in a backflow certification. The next item is elevator tests. There aren't that many elevators in the village, but there's supposed to be a yearly test. We can ask for a record of that test, or the owner of the building has to keep that test on file. Should there be a problem, they have to be able to produce a certificate that is dated less than a year from whatever point of necessity to find it, such that there was an accident or something went wrong. So they have to keep a record of that themselves. They're required to do that now, but we don't have any records of that actually happening. So the building department getting a copy of the elevator test certificates would be important, so that we can make sure that people do the proper job. The next thing is the demolition fees. Right now, it's $250 get you a demolition permit, no matter what the size of the project is. I'm sure you're aware there's a large demolition project going to be happening within a year or more from now. And I think $250 for the entire project would be a low fee. I think it should be broken down by the sizes of the buildings that are being demolished, and depending upon their square footage would be a sliding scale as to what the fee would be for those buildings. I've mentioned in conversations with Holtec that they can incorporate as many as 5 buildings in a singular permit, rather than trying to have 150 or 200 permits. So I thought that would be advantageous to them.
Can I just ask you a question? That's a good idea. That's easier to really track it instead of having 150 pieces of paper.
Yes,
But
as long as the buildings are similar.
Right, okay. My question though is, so once we get into the demolition of a project, it's the building department and it's the engineer that are involved at that point?
Yes.
Like, so they'll pull a permit for a demolition, and you would inspect or watch what's being done, and then also our village engineer would also be involved in the demolition of whatever, a house, it doesn't matter.
Right, and then Holtec would have to provide their certification from their engineer that it was also done. That responsibility is up to them. The village is going to be observing the demolition.
Okay. All right. So they would have to have engineer plans on how the demolition will happen and signed off by an engineer.
Yeah, how it's going to proceed and how they're going to remove the structures once they're demolished. How is the debris being removed from the site?
Okay.
Okay. They did at one point in time make mention of that. Was there any ordinance that would prevent them from burying the debris? And you do have one on site. You have one on the zoning code, and we shared that with them.
Oh, no, that's not happening. Okay.
All right. So.
Yeah, that was non-nuclear material. They wanted to.
You don't want to have a big hole and then you have all this concrete in it, and then if somebody else wants to redevelop.
That's right.
That's right. So thank God our code does not allow that. So they were informed of that.
Good.
The next item was the registration of apartments, accessory apartments, I should say.
Okay.
Most of them are not registered at the moment. We need to get an aggressive policy going so that the people that do have them will register them, and we have to keep records of that. And of course, there are fees involved. So that could be a small center for some incentive on the village's part to collect the fee for these units.
How many do we know of that we have now of the those units, the accessory?
Yeah,
It was in the 40s.
yeah, I think there was a
Okay.
40 plus units
Okay.
And as of 5 years ago, I think only like a dozen of them,
Like 12 to 15.
yeah, were registered at all.
Yeah.
So you're missing over 25 of them.
Okay.
And the other thing is, this Nick was also asking to, if you have a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment buildings, apartments, or an apartment building, Nick wanted those to be registered as well with emergency contact information. So not just the accessory units, it's any apartment within the village is what Nick was asking for. So again, this is just a list of things that Brian and Peter are looking into. When everything's not going to happen tomorrow, but just to give you an idea of what other things they might be looking at the next year or two, because it's going to take us time to catch up the building department as it is.
And, part of the registration is to have the village be informed who is the electrician of record for that particular building and who is the plumber. Should there be a complication during off hours and the owner is not available, or it's a corporation and no one is there, we have the proper persons that to contact to resolve a broken water pipes or electrical complication and things such as that.
Loss of heat, or something like that, exactly.
All of that, yes. Exactly. And then the last item was a sprinkler installation on homes. It generally in Westchester County, new homes have a fire sprinkler as part of the plan when the house is being built. Of course, not all municipalities have that, but you take like the town of Greenberg, they've been doing fire sprinklers even in modulars for probably the last 30 years. So it's not a new concept. The other item is if the house is not new, but it has more than 3 stories, or I should say, excuse me, more than 2, and it has a third that's been a storage attic and it's going to be converted into some other use that has occupancy, that 3rd floor plus the path of egress to a point of safe discharge would likewise have to have a fire sprinkler in it. And the fire sprinkler does require a regulated pressure zone, an RPZ, a backflow preventer, and those, of course, are tested every year. So there's a series of things involved with the fire sprinkler.
Okay, so let me just understand. Are you suggesting that it's only for new construction in the village? And
right now, the state code requires it when 2 or more stories become occupied where it has not been occupied prior to this. You have a big
so you're saying like a 3rd story on a wood frame building, for example?
Right, that's changing use. They decided to put something up there where it's previously not had anything up there. This is not going to affect the buildings that already have a 3rd story use. This is if they're converting from an empty space that's now going to be occupied.
But I thought, I know I'm not a building inspector, so don't get me wrong. I thought that a 3rd story could not be used for a living space. I thought that was not allowed under New York State code at all.
No, it's absolutely allowed with a fire sprinkler. And of course, an egress method to get out of the 3rd floor, alternatively from the stairs.
Right. And we've seen some people, you know, we've had the conversation. We know there's a lot of code enforcement that has to be addressed that, unfortunately, circumstances. But so there's a lot of code enforcement, and, you know, we have pointed out certain property that there was overcrowding and it was a 3rd floor situation.
Yeah.
And that's a concern. First of all, if it's not legal, that's one problem. And the second problem, there was a fire and there's no fire, and somebody has to jump out of a 3-story building. Absolutely. And have no way safe to get out of the building. The other thing, Brian and Peter, was also if they do a substantial addition to a house, Brian, that maybe you want to address that as well.
Yes, if a house changes its physical size or occupancy level by more than 50%, then that area of the new construction attaching itself to an existing house would have to have a fire sprinkler system as well.
Okay.
And this was all done, and then Dwayne can address this too, just to give you some idea. I've seen this in a whole bunch of communities due to the materials being built right now are more flammable and they take off much faster. Furnitures on the type of material to build houses right now, the wood frame, they use some kind of, Brian knows this better than I do. Brian sometimes sounds like a scientist when he talks to me, is the chemicals they use, they burn much faster and much hotter. So this will just protect the property and also the firefighters and people who are living in the house. So Brian, you might want to explain that for the public too, but you explain it to me and it's good to people to understand that.
Okay, well, today, the cost of forestry and changing living trees into dimensional lumber to build building, it's a short growth time frame right now. They're turning trees over faster than they used to, so it's not old growth. What they've done now is they've taken things that are called engineered lumber. They make a wooden I-beam, they make wooden LVLs, laminated veneer lumbers. They make trusses, they make a whole series of things that because of the nature of the glue that holds them together, the glue itself is flammable. They do have now been addressing it. Some of the LVLs and TJI trusses and wooden I-beams are now being coated with fire-resistant materials, but that's very rare. We rarely ever see that. Most of the time, yeah, it's expensive, and most lumberyards don't even carry it. So they're designing structures now with larger spans, but with material that is more subject to damage due to a fire. And of course, there's collapse involved with that. And it's the firemen that are being put into jeopardy. They're going through a building, but there may be a fire from underneath, and then the structure below their feet fails. So the idea behind that is that the sprinkler system will minimize and give them much more time to fight the fire and also to get people out without causing a loss of life.
Okay, so here's what I want to do, because before this gets all twisted and all spirals out of control and it goes out into the village and we're being accused of making everybody put in a sprinkler system, because I know that's what's going to happen. So let's review this.
Sure.
So if someone wanted to use, and they could, there was enough room and there was another alternate way to get out the third floor of a building, that would have to be sprinklered. So that's one thing that would have to be sprinklered.
And the pathway out.
Yeah, and the pathway out to a point of safe discharge.
All right. So if it's a enclosed staircase.
Or that, or just sprinklers in an open staircase. It's just the idea that it has to have a sprinkler.
Okay. So that's number one. That would be one of the situations that would happen.
Yeah.
Number two, it would be if someone builds more than 50%, like they do an addition to their home, it's more than 50%, the new addition would have to be sprinklered.
Correct.
The new construction would have to be sprinklered.
Only the new construction, yeah.
Okay, so that's number two. What was the third again? There was another.
A brand new house.
A brand new house. But isn't that under uniform code that new houses have to be sprinklered now?
No, it would have to be a local village ordinance, and that would have to go to the state of New York and to the Codes Council to be approved, for the village to require that.
That's, I know I did it with one of my buildings, and I did it before it was required because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to pay for a multifamily building. So now I know it's required, but this was done like 12 years ago. And it helps with the insurance too.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, how many other communities do that in the county? How many?
Irvington.
Many of them do that. Some of them have been requiring these, as I said, like Greenberg for over 30 years. But, the villages like Dobbs Ferry, they also do it in Irvington. They do it in a lot of places. It's a requirement. I could find out the specific number.
I just, I know it's a cost to do it. I know the safety factor. I know the expense of it each year. Yeah, no, I don't know. That's something the board is going to have to discuss and everything. But I just wanted to make it clear that we were not making people that have existing homes to install them. So
Oh, no, not at
That
all.
was clear.
Not at all. Nope. No, if it was all legal at the time, that's just the way that is. There was one more item I want to discuss, and that apparently there's an ordinance about trailers. There's no fees involved, and it requires the village to track down where the trailers are and have the people give us a copy of their registration and their plate numbers. And then we issue a sticker to the trailer. There's also on the trailer, you're not allowed to have more than one. Some homes have more than one. They have boats on trailers, they have jet skis on trailers. They have a series of things like that. If you wanted to continue that, since it has not been done in a while, should there not be a fee, or is there just a no fee involved?
yeah, we decided when that was already done that there was no fee. You know what the problem was, just so you understand, we were concerned at the time with, we found out that we had a lot of boats and vehicles being stored here that were, from other areas, because they're not allowed in other areas. So what was happening is, they were being left and stored here, which isn't fair to everyone else. And sometimes it was a rental where the landlord didn't even live there, and then they were storing stuff from other communities. So, and we didn't want to hurt the residents because, people have boats. They have, different things. So we didn't want to hurt them. So I think it was more just to control us not having somebody having 4 trailers, 4 boats on their property, on their front lawns. I think it was more of quality of life thing that we were looking to do.
And Teresa, that's a good point. I think what we do is when the building department gets a handle on this and we got an idea how many we're talking about, we can revisit this. If somebody has multiple trailers, maybe we talk about doing some kind of fee if you have more than one or something like that. But they just wanted to make sure you knew that they've been looking at everything and see what things are happening and see how we can recoup the cost, because everything costs money for the building department to do. And if the board doesn't want to charge a fee now, that's fine. But we can figure out what that cost would be in the future, how to maintain that kind of stuff too.
Okay. But I think once that gets on track, that's on track, I think it's the setting up that takes the time with that.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on that.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're working on it.
All right.
And I believe that's the end of my list for the moment.
Okay, thank you. I know you guys have been working hard. I know that there's things that have to be addressed. We're going to talk more about that. Code enforcement for the board is very, very, very important. As you know, you've been here for a while now. You see the things that are going on, and so I know you're addressing some of those things. And as we go forward, we'll get it all done.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get a handle on everything as best we can.
Yeah. It's you got your feet wet now, so.
We're in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're trying to keep it below our knees.
I hear you. I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
And it's a big team effort.
Yeah.
Marcus and yourself, everyone, we're all working on it. So.
Good. That's how I like to run it. I run a team. Everybody works together.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
Any board members, anybody have anything else to say or ask any questions of the building inspectors?
That's good. No questions.
You must be doing the right thing then, huh?
I'm happy.
Guess so.
All right, good. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
Peter, in case you're interested, you're on the agenda later on if you want to stay for until we get to another item about you in the future.
Something about me?
Yeah.
Oh. What could that possibly be?
Hang out for a little while.
All right, I will.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, gotta mute us.
Okay, what is our next thing on our list?
The fire pumper.
Okay, yes, sir.
So we've been going back and forth for a while with the fire department to replace, I think it was the 1991 pumper that keeps on breaking down. They have a lot of electrical issues. The village board met with the fire department and the current chief right now, and some other members of the fire department. So we've determined that we're going to move forward with purchasing a fire pumper. We actually got it off a state contract for a pretty good price. It's a demo model, so it's not like, all the beautiful bells and whistles. The fire department does not want to spend more than necessary to do what needs to be done, which I really appreciate the fire department thinking that way. So at the next meeting, you will have a bond resolution. Even though it's just explained, even though we're doing bond resolution, we'll be actually borrowing a bond anticipation note, which renews every year for the next 5 years until we turn it into a bond. So at the next meeting, you will have a resolution for that, as well as a motion to, as the board sets a reserve account that was being put away. We put $50,000 away every year to pay for these kind of things. So the board has approved to take a little bit over $200,000 out of that account to reduce the cost of the fire pumper. So the debt we're borrowing will be less than the actually full purchase price of the truck. So at the next meeting, we'll have a resolution to actually move that process forward, so we can actually borrow the money. And the truck should be ready in May, and then they'll sell the old truck, and any funds received from that will actually go back into the reserve account, and then we can determine next year if we're going to use that money to pay off the debt, or we're going to use tax money to pay off the debt.
I'd prefer to use that money to pay off the debt. I'm not a big fan of debt. I just, especially, I know there's been questions from people why we're buying a truck. Because other communities in the area have fire departments, but if we're going to keep this service, we really need to give them the equipment that they need. And the fire truck we're replacing is a 1998. There's been some issues. There's been a lot of issues with it.
Yep.
So that's why we're doing this. So people, we're trying to be as frugal as possible, but it gets to a safety issue sometimes, and it's a service that's provided to protect the residents, and we need the equipment. So Marcus.
Yes.
What is the current amount in that account again?
It's a little bit over 300,000.
Okay. So the 300,000, we're going to take approximately 200,000 out, which will leave 100 reserve on that.
That's correct.
How much, once again, I wrote it down, it's in my other notes, are we expected to get from the sale of those other items?
The fire pumper, I don't remember off the top of my head. Was it 40 or 50,000 if we sell that truck? So we'll put $50,000 back into the account if we sell that old truck.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but that truck, like I mentioned, as the board knows, the fire department said is actually stalled on them a number of times responding to a fire. So it's working right now. If we can sell it, I think we'll get hopefully a good amount of money for it, and then we can put that money back into the account, and then it gives us that money to determine what we're going to do next year.
Okay. All right. Is the board okay with that? I know we've discussed this before.
Yep. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right. We want to make sure our equipment's safe too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're not going to do the next baseball field use.
Yeah, we have a request. We had a request from the Travel League to use our baseball field. They're thinking that they can meet all CDC requirements and have practices and games. So if the board is willing to do that, the only changes I will recommend is we've had issues collecting the fees, is to have the money paid in advance before the games are played. We can reconcile that at the end of the season. Make sure that they bring the porta potties in, they clean, they provide us with that information. And also Nancy did bring up that there is a blacked out time that they can't play games. If we do go ahead with the day camp program, the field cannot be used during that time. So if the board is willing to open the door for the Travel League to use the field, I can get all these details worked out with the leagues, and that's not your concern. I can take care of that. But the biggest question is, do you want to allow games to be played on the field?
Yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah, I'm fine. Are these weekend games, or are they going to practice during the week as well?
They do both. That's correct.
Okay. I don't have a problem with them using the field. I don't.
I think, we like to see everyone out there playing and using the facilities. And, remember we had taken money from a recreation fund a couple of years ago to upgrade that field. So it was kind of sad to see that field sitting there last year, not being used at all. So,
right.
Yeah, I'd like to see that happen this year again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll let them know and I'll get the details worked out.
Okay. As long as they follow the CDC guidelines.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay.
And the one good thing is baseball is not really a contact sport, so that's a good thing.
Unless you're sliding into home plate.
Or second base. If you're stealing second base, the second baseman has to put a mask on.
No, we only do stand-ups now. You shake your hand and
Oh,
walk
really?
off
Oh, yeah? You can't slide anymore? I didn't know that.
No.
Forget it. That's no fun. Okay, so that's settled. Let's see, authorizing mayor to sign a contract amendment recognizing the transfer from Entergy to Holtec regarding reimbursement to the village for police services.
Yeah, what that is everybody knows there's a lawsuit going on, so I don't know where that's going to go. But as part of the transfer from Entergy to Holtec is also Entergy reimburses the village for any overtime for police officers to control traffic, coming in and out of the facility. So if the transfer does go through, the idea is to now we signed the agreement with Holtec, which is Entergy, to reimburse the village for that overtime. So that's all it is. It's just I'm recognizing that transfer and for the reimbursement to the village. If the sale goes through, which is also be at the end of April, beginning of May, we'll be receiving a check from Holtec for overtime versus Entergy. That's all it is.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody from the board? That's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna have Peter Cook, who is our part-time assistant building inspector. We'd like to make him the full-time assistant building inspector for an annual salary of $90,000.
As we know, the amount of time to try to catch up with things going on, the full-time opportunity, Peter's willing to come on full-time for the village. And this will allow him to be there 5 days a week, but we all know it'll be 24/7 because Peter is that type of person. So it gives us somebody full-time there. Brian Cook is still be there for a couple of hours a week to give additional support for the office, because everybody knows there's only one, if he's on the field, there's nobody in the office. So it gives us additional backup, and we're actually get a lot more services to our residents, because Cindy knows too, we got a lot of people in the windows when we got a part-time building inspector. This will actually give the residents a lot more service and actually better quality of life for everybody as well. So if the board is willing to do this, it could be adopted in the next meeting, and I will really appreciate it. And I think a lot of residents would appreciate that as well.
And there is a lot going on. There's going to continue to be a lot going on, not only with the decommissioning, but we have potential for some construction coming. There's things like that happening. And I do want to say, I was very impressed with Peter and Brian. It was last week and it was almost 4:30. And I drove down Tate Avenue and I was like, geez, what are these cars doing parked here? And then I noticed it was a village car. So it just, they really have a good work ethic. It's almost 4:30 and they were still out there on the job. So Peter and Brian, thank you. I know you're working hard. I know we have a lot of issues to address, but I know you guys will address them for the village. And you're doing a good job, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, we're trying our best, and between Marcus and Cindy and Sharon, as a team working together, finally getting spreadsheets, getting things together that we can get information on the computer, so that when we get a software package, we're trying to get out of the paper age and
that's good.
Forward.
Good.
So it's
Sounds great.
All right.
Excellent.
I'm sorry, there was somebody else, one of the other board members that had wanted to say something. I interrupted. I apologize. Or was I wrong? Okay. All right, good, perfect. All right, so I think we're good with you. The C2, we're going to call you C2, Peter Cook and Brian Cook.
Okay, very good.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Nope,
Okay.
thank you so very much.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Have a good night
You
also.
guys are the best. Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
I just wanted to have a quick discussion with everybody. The village has hired a company to find water leaks because we have some issues with water leaks, and we have found a few of them, and one is pretty large. So we are working with the property owner where the large water leak is, and there'll be more details to come on that. So maybe next week I'll be able to give you more information on that.
Perfect.
Okay, what else do we have?
Just for the announcement for the election inspector. So I don't know if you want
yes, I'm so sorry. Yes,
Cindy?
coming. Cindy, is Cindy going to do that?
Yes, I'll let Cindy
Okay.
do that.
Let's listen.
Oh, well, I'm actually waiting for the list from the Board of Elections to see who is on the list to be an inspector this year. So if I get it, then we'll be able to see who can work.
Okay. So we do this every year. This is the to appoint the election inspectors. The election this year is March 16th.
16.
Okay. The pay schedule is chairman $195 a day, inspector $180, and an alternate inspector $90. And I think, Cindy, that people, they go through training to become an inspector.
Yes, they do.
And if anyone is interested, they have to call the Board of Elections to register or do the training or whatever.
That's
So,
correct.
yeah, so is anybody interested? Call them now. We need you.
Yes. Okay, so we did that. What else? Does anybody else, Marcus, do you have anything else on your list?
Nope, you covered all the bases.
Okay. Does any of the board members have anything they'd like to bring up or discuss?
I'm good.
I'm good?
Good.
All right. Because we have to go into executive session. We have some personnel and contractual issues to discuss. So I am going to make a motion. Marcus?
Teresa,
Can I ask a question?
Teresa, a couple
Oh,
of hand,
sure.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm so sorry. I didn't see the hands. I apologize.
Stephanie had a question first.
Okay, Stephanie, what do you have for us?
What were we doing about the overlay?
The
It says
overlay
discussion of
district,
changes.
I'm glad you mentioned that. The overlay is still in the, into the public hearing. We weren't going to discuss it tonight. I have to tell you, thank you, Stephanie, for mentioning that. Nick Zachary is not with us this evening. Nick has COVID, and Nick is not feeling well. He's had COVID for over a week now. He found out he tested positive the other day. So he's been pretty tired, pretty weak, and we wish him the best. We wish him a speedy recovery. And I know Nick has been very involved with the overlay district, so that's another reason. But there was also, Marcus, 3 changes that we have to the overlay district. Do you want to talk about it tonight, or do we want to?
Sure. So, since we got some people in the public as well, so they know,
Sure.
at the next public hearing, our planner will also discuss these changes that he's recommending. One is to any residential projects within that district, if it's strictly residential, they'll have to have a special permit from the planning board. They have to go to the planning board. So if you have a mixed use, that'll be fine. But if you have residential only, it'll have to go to the planning board for a special permit. The other thing, there was 2 additional parcels at the Village Circle has been added to the district. And the third item is mobile homes have been excluded from the C2 district. So those are the 3 changes we're talking about. A lot of this was based on the opening of the public hearing, some comments we received from the public. And also I did want to mention that the chairman from the planning board had a number of comments himself. Those has been submitted to the planner, so that way he can provide responses. And I think we'll have that discussion at the public hearing. So that's where we stand. So what we'll do is what before the public hearing, we'll put the changes on the website so the general public can see that as well. We'll probably post that tomorrow and we'll put it on the website if it's not already there. I'm not sure if we put it up already. If not, we'll put it up there for the public hearing.
Good.
Okay, and we have 2 hands raised. If you want to let me know if you want me to allow them to speak and who you would like to speak first.
Oh, yes. Yeah, open, whoever the first person is, open it up. That's
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. So Mr. Murray is the first one. Show it.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I
Thank you.
just want to speak to you guys about the overlay district. I'm sorry to see that Nick is not here. I asked Marcus to forward you guys the comments that the planning board has. Mr. Cook as well as Mr. Stolman were on the last planning board meeting where we amended the response to the planning board. We based our current response on the changes that were in the new draft legislation. So I had sent that out to my members, the revisions that we had talked about at our last public meeting. I have not gotten back the confirmation that they have read the changes that we went over. That's why I didn't submit it on letterhead and a signature, but I believe I've captured all of their comments as well as all of their revisions. We actually shortened the list up and we agreed upon more things based on Mr. Stolman's amendment to the schedule. So I know that Nick's not here. Hopefully the rest of the board members who will be voting on this resolution have had a chance to review the documents, and I would just be open to any questions or comments that you would have on the planning board's recommendations.
Yes. Thank you, Sean. Yes, we are in receipt of that, and thank you, and thank the planning board for their comments on that too.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Who's our next hand?
Yeah. Hold on a second.
Well, do any of you guys have any questions on this? Were you able to review the document?
No, we can discuss it in the public hearing too.
Okay, cool. No problem. You got it.
Thanks,
Yep.
Sean.
Ellen's on.
Eileen?
Eileen. Sorry, Eileen.
How are you?
Marcus,
I'm
shame
sorry.
on you.
I'm sorry. I'm doing a text. So many people texting me at the same time.
Don't you know your brain can't do 2 things at one time? Only do one.
Especially after COVID, my mind is always. I still wear a haze.
I know. Okay. Well, you get an excuse on that one. I have a question for Peter or Brian Cook. At what point or what building permit, when you go to change something or you're renovating, at what point, or is there at any time that you contact the town of Cortland for a reassessment?
I was just dealing with Mr. Watkins for the past week, and we pretty much got our end for 2020 up to date. But when we fill out the paper, when they submit a permit or we issue a CO, the paperwork is now being emailed directly to the applicant and or owner, and we bring the other copies that go to the town down to the office to
to be submitted.
They submit it, and that's what
submitted to the assessor's office.
And Mr.
Okay,
Waite
so
copy at that point.
okay, so at the point of the town receiving it in the assessor's office,
Yes.
how is it determined if they have to come to reassess the property?
Mr. Watkins is in charge of that. That's his responsibility. He discussed, again, I put a list together of everything that we had, that was issued out of the office for 2020, permits, COs, and what stage of the jobs they were in as of the end of the year. And he makes the judgment call of how to reassess them or what to charge for the role. And I'm going out with him tomorrow. There are 6 or 7 projects that were undetermined. There was no real detail. We're going to investigate those to determine how much, if they've been completed, because there's no CO on those particular projects. So we had about 120 projects that were filed for, and only 45 or 46 of them were finished. So there's a lot of open work, and Mr. Watkins and I have been working on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks, Eileen. Okay, any other hands raised? Anyone else want to comment? Are we?
That's it, Mayor.
Okay, good. Cindy, do you have anything? Is there anybody that's called in or no?
No calls.
No calls. Okay, so If there's no other comments from the board, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss contractual and personnel issues.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you, everybody. We'll take a break for 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Thank you.
Okay, great.